when you say dual heritage, I don't understand what they mean. So if you've got a Scottish father and an English mother, and you was born in England, you're English, right? If you then moved to Scotland and you swear allegiance to Scotland and their constitution and their Roman administrative law, and you want to be Scottish, then you're Scottish. That's it. But this nonsense that is put out there that you're British because you've got makes me laugh when people say it. Well, I'm British because my dad's Scottish and my mum's English, right? That's not where it come from. It come from the British Nationality Act of 1981 and 1947, when they completely removed English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish and stuck on your forehead British. And the reason they did that was because all the time you're wearing a legal fiction that says British, you've got no English rights. So for me, it's obvious, but to many people out there, they have been indoctrinated to think something that is completely wrong.
Why are the social services so powerful, and how can the corruption be beaten?
They are so powerful because what they have is access directly to something called the family court, and the family court has become a reincarnation of what we used to call the Star Chamber, which makes all the decisions and thinks it can't be appealed anywhere else, which is wrong. If you go back to a number of issues previously, particularly one by Sir John Laws, which was Cart and Others 2009, 2011, 2012, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and he basically says everyone comes under the jurisdiction of the common law, no matter who it is or what it is. So again, it's people being ill-advised by British solicitors and British barristers, and they've allowed this to happen. And the people that are really being targeted in this system are the white English working class kids and the white English working class parents. And we need to stand up for ourselves under English law, real law, not the nonsense other people are putting out there.
What's your take on the Bills of Exchange Act?
I don't know what would you mean I don't know what they mean my take on it. The Bills of Exchange Act of when? So yes, there is a Bills of Exchange Act, but what my take on it is not really there.
All right, who is the power behind all of this? Starmer is just a puppet.
I completely agree with you. It's a bit difficult to say. I think there's a layered system. The easiest way to say this, I don't think Satan is one person. I think dark personality, and that means narcissistic. Dark personality covers 4 types of people. It's a type of brain function: narcissist, psychopath, Machiavellian, and sadist. That's 10% of the population that elevate themselves. Don't matter what colour your skin is, all over the world. That personality type, they're very. They've got no conscience whatsoever, and they only ever do harm. And if there's anyone who's ever been married to a narcissist, you'll know what I'm talking about.
How do we stop Sharia in no-go English areas?
You enforce the English Bill of Rights. The English Bill of Rights forbids Sharia, and it forbids Talmud, and it forbids Jewish cults. It forbids any religious cult.
Has the welfare state destroyed the UK?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need a new digital rights?
There's one on our website. If you look on our website, you'll see the English digital Bill of Rights. So your rights under the English common law and the Constitution, etc., would stay. That's how they're supposed to be. But what we've done is written an English digital Bill of Rights, which means one of the things there, for example, you cannot have a central bank digital currency. You must always have cash in society, etc. And there's lots of different things in that digital Bill of Rights that we've written out.
If found guilty in Texas, do the Texans come and arrest the guilty and plonk them in a Texas prison?
Yes. And by the
Are we
way,
getting...
that's international law. That's not it is under universal jurisdiction for torture.
Are we getting closer to taking England back or not?
Definitely. The more English flags I'm seeing out there, the major thing is people need to free their mind from the indoctrination of British and understand that you are English, Scottish, Irish, or Welsh, or Cornish.
Who is responsible for social care costs of the elderly?
That's a good question. The answer to that, and I have done various shows on this, the local authorities have been wrongly forcing elderly people to sell their homes to pay for care in care homes. That is actually illegal, and there is a set process for it. There was a big article written in the Daily Telegraph a few years back, and I've put it on my show a few times. You can legally challenge that, and you should win. And if your parents or someone you know has been forced to sell their home to pay for care, and that care was at such level that they needed a form of hospitalised treatment, which is a care home, yeah, it is the local authority that has to pay for that, or the National Health Service, right? Because you was promised cradle to grave, and that is the law, and that's what they had to pay for. They've got no right to take your assets to pay for it.
Can Sadiq Khan be removed?
Yes.
How?
Well, there's a few ways it can be done, but legally speaking, he is in breach. Again, we arrested him January the 13th, 2018 for subverting the English Constitution at the Fabian Society event. Sadiq Khan is a Fabian, an executive member. Keir Starmer is an executive member. Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, executive members. And people must remember the last time a full cabinet of Fabians was in power like we've got now, that was Tony Blair, and we went to a war with Iraq on a lie. So Fabians, socialism, Marxism, which is exactly what it is, and they are the most corrupt people out there.
So do you think Tommy Robinson has a good chance of staying out of prison with his next case beginning in June?
Not if he uses British solicitors or British barristers, no. He'll go straight back in there.
And would you welcome Tommy to join you? Graham's already said he's reached out, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I've reached out to him. I mean, again, he's got. You're never ever going to align with someone completely. But I do not consider Tommy Robinson has ever been a racist, right? I'm not a racist. You're not a racist. We're talking about our culture and our country being destroyed. We're talking about rape and torture gangs roaming the realm and doing as they will, and no justice for it. What I'm saying is, you know, he has been a voice. People standing up now, voice for many years on that as well. So again, there are many things that we align on. The thing that people really do need to understand, and it's a shame that Britain First have got a logo and an emblem and a brand of Britain, because they don't understand the real concept of what's causing the problem. So yeah, I do. I haven't got a problem with Tommy Robinson.
Can we remove the Fabians from Parliament?
The answer is they should all be done for subverting the English Constitution, which is in effect treason.
Is Article 61 Magna Carta invoked?
It was invoked in 2002 by the Magna Carta Society. John Hurst was the principal behind that. John Bigley, to others. It was a proper process. It is still in full force. In fact, if you go on YouTube, you will see Lord Judge, an English Supreme Court judge, talking exactly about Article 61, why it exists, and it is still in existence, and it is still available. But there is a process that you must follow. And again, people need to understand that due process is very important. There is a method and a way you put it in place. That was put in place for a specific reason. and that specific reason has now passed. So is it still in effect? Technically, no, because we're not members of the European Union, although we've just been taken back in by the back door under a lie.
Chris is saying, if everyone retweeted Lucy Connolly's tweet, could that make her sentence void, as not everyone would be able to go to prison, and the precedent of her conviction would be void?
No, no.
What do you mean? It wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't work. No.
Just
The best way.
Arrested, probably.
No, yeah, exactly. Again, that's the type of thing that just calls. I mean, again, if it's an idea that comes out, just to make sure everyone's aware of this, there was a general talking about Churchill during the Second World War, and he said about Churchill, he had hundreds of ideas, and he said out of 199 of them were completely mad, stupid, and ridiculous. And he said, but one, just one, was absolute genius, right? So about ideas and putting through, that's why I say there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? Because only intelligent people ask questions. And that's the great thing about your audience tonight. Putting all these questions in there is showing they are an intelligent audience. Only intelligent people ask questions.
Next question is from Pia. If Starmer stays in power until the next election, will we be able to undo the damage if not voted in again?
Well, so you've on the camera. So you've frozen a little bit on there. If Starmer stays in power until the next election, will we be able to undo the damage if they've not voted in again? We can always undo every bit of damage they've all done by voiding the Acts of Union. It is a complete people's reset.
What do you know about the Baron David Ward affidavit from 2015?
Nothing is the answer.
Is council tax legal?
In my opinion, no, it isn't legal, and it's not legal because it was actually passed as an act of parliament illegally because it did not receive royal assent.
Wow. How can we enforce the English constitution, being that we are dealing with lawlessness?
That's a really good question. There's two answers to that. You use the ballot to its maximum. So in other words, if you don't vote, you're actually aiding and abetting the enemy. The other way of doing it, if it goes that far, and I believe it possibly will, under the English common law and the constitution and our ancient rights and customs, we have the right to armed rebellion. In other words, we have the right to take back this country by force if the people above us are tyrannous, which they are.
Isn't Starmer trying to get us back in the EU by making payments? And if so, is that treason?
Yes. And he's also given away our complete control, command and control of our military, which means we are no longer sovereign.
Would you remove England from international laws and agreements?
The answer is that if you void the Acts of Union, that is exactly what happens.
How do we stop all this data sharing and facial recognition stuff?
Good question. If you look at the English Digital Bill of Rights on our website, you will see that we have put a proposal forward, which is the English Digital Bill of Rights that stops that. In other words, you are copyrighted to your image, to your gait, to your retinas, your blood type. Every part of you is copyrighted to you, right? So therefore, if anyone wants to use that, including the state, they have to either pay you or enter into a negotiation with you to use it.
Did you see the Mrs. Macron claw him in the face on the plane? What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is that the absolutely gorgeous stewardess was bending over, giving him some coffee, and she didn't like the way that he was looking at her. That's my thoughts on that.
What do you think of the Chagos Islands deal?
Absolute disgrace. Again, they did try and bring an injunction Some of the potential constitutional laws, it would have been an idea if they'd spoken to me, and I would have given them a lot of help on that case, and I believe they would have won it.
Do we need to have local militias and local volunteer constables?
Absolutely. Militias are an honourable thing. They are completely detached from the government, and you are entitled to have an armed militia. And under the English Bill of Rights, you have the absolute right to self-defence and to bear arms as a Protestant for your defence and the defence of the community, as is still the right in Northern Ireland.
Are you aware of local government 1888 section 79 subsection 2, which means that councils are liable for all taxes on property?
No, I'm not aware of that. I don't really get involved in the nitty-gritty. There's some people that deal with the local laws, and I'm quite happy to talk about the laws that have been put in place. My opinion is, as a constitutionalist, that what give those people authority to write them laws and to deploy council tax against you unlawfully and go through the courts to take your house or whatever they want to do, liability acts and all sorts of things, it is all unlawful, because what give them the authority in Parliament, which was the Local Authorities Act, I think it was 1992, whenever it was unlawfully enacted because it didn't go through the proper process. That is unconstitutional. Therefore, its authority is null and void.
What do you think of King Charles keeping mum about everything? Why do our armed forces, who do our armed forces support, us or the government?
That's a good question. King Charles has betrayed us without any doubts whatsoever. Our armed forces currently have still got this thing where they believe they are British and support a British Union. Someone spoke to me the other day about the Gurkhas being British, and I said, yeah, they're also trained in riot control. And as soon as the government deploys them against you as the English, you will see how British they really are. And when I say British, meaning they will absolutely annihilate any Englishman standing up against them.
Will Starmer face justice, or he's untouchable, isn't he?
I think he will. My personal opinion is you're going to see the justice in America first. It will be done under the Constitution. There will be people tried for treason in America and executed. Once that happens, people will be asking, what is the Constitution and where do these treason laws come from? And then people will refer back to England, the English Constitution and the treason laws of England. And you will see people facing justice in this country.
What is your view of the devolution introduced by Tony Blair?
A con is the answer. Scotland, just to give you an indication, Scotland is a region of the European Union. It does not really have a devolved parliament. What it actually has is an assembly. They haven't deviated from the original plan of the European Union. And just to give you an example, they removed the 7 constabularies, police constabularies of Scotland. They replaced it with a police state, which is Police Scotland. It is a region. And the sooner people realise that the regionalisation of England is exactly the same, there is no such thing as levelling up. There is only bringing all of the other regions of England down to the same level as London. And what you're going to see is every region with an Islamic mayor.
Did the king come to the throne legally?
My opinion is a number of, it's certainly since 1849, every monarch has breached or perjured their oath, and therefore my own opinion of the monarchy is it needs to go.
It is sad that the American people know more about our constitution than we do. The Acts of Union saying the British have to communicate our rights to us. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, the Acts of, so let me just show you this. Here's a little document here. Most people who've ever been to America will understand this. There's a little booklet, and it says, the Constitution of the United States. It's the We the People documentation, and and everyone in America is actually taught that at school. There's another book here. Again, it's just by chance I've got it here. Anyone want to go and read that? It's called Reading Law, Antonian Scalia. And again, he refers to English law on numerous occasions in that, and where the Second Amendment in America and the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment, in fact, every amendment, come from England, right? So once people understand how English common law and the Constitution was exported to the United States of America. So again, what that lady just said there, the Acts of Union does state, I believe it is Article 4, and it says that these rights must be communicated to the people, and they're not. It was removed from the curriculum in the early 1970s and the bar exams again in the early 1970s. And the reason they did that is because they didn't want you to know that you had inalienable rights.
Are we seeing a change in the New World Order?
Yes, without any doubts whatsoever. You're probably going to get a multipolar world, which is a good thing. But again, what you will be seeing, in my opinion, is the European Union completely dissolved, the British political union completely dissolve and go back to nationhood, where nations will independently trade with each other. And that includes the United States of America, meaning they will go back to the Confederacy and will not be controlled by a federal government. It will go back to being the states make their laws, but you have an overarching constitution, the same as what England had.
Should our sons fight for Starmer in World War III?
Absolutely not. But unfortunately, this treasonous government and the one before it and the one before that and this king signed up to the European Union for conscription. You won't have a choice.
Do Scots have a right to militias?
Yes.
Are the English allowed to bear arms? Only if you're a farmer, isn't it?
Sorry?
We can only bear arms if we're a farmer or we've got a license.
No, everyone has the right to keep and bear arms. Every single person in this country. It's a constitutional right. You can look it up in the English Bill of Rights.
No one is above one another. Do you agree with that?
Depends what you mean by that. Do I believe that some people are more intelligent than others? And does that mean someone more intelligent is above you? It depends on the situation. That's a bit of a wide-ranging question. If I believe we all have equal rights, absolutely. Should we all be treated equally under the law? Absolutely. Does that mean that there shouldn't be a two-tier justice system? Absolutely.
Will Islam become the dominant religion in the UK?
If we don't stop it, yes. Islam is a political ideology. It is not a religion.
Is the City of London a separate entity like Washington, D.C. and the Vatican City?
Yes. It shouldn't be, but it is.
There's been a news story that we've been reporting on quite a lot on this channel because the mainstream media have done a blackout on it. And that is that 2 Starmer properties and a car on separate nights were firebombed. And the arrestees all look like they've come out of a boy band, gay bar kind of energy about them, which seems really weird because they've got like ads up saying that they want their male models, allegedly male escorts, rent boys. And this viewer is asking, what do you think about this peculiar case? Because how would they know where he lives and what his car is, etc.?
It's fairly obvious to me that he is what he is. Let me put it that way. But it's interesting that you talk about a blackout, because the blackout is exactly what the current media are doing with, and thanks to alternative news media like yourselves, that's exactly what they're doing, is blacking out the Runcorn and Helsby petition. So do I believe that they can block these things out from the people knowing about it? Absolutely, yes. Do I think it is probable that what the alternative media are saying and reporting on is true, yes.
Are the boat people untrained soldiers?
Possibly, but they are more likely to be trained soldiers. They certainly would have all seen some form of combat.
Can we stop mosque building or limit its numbers?
Most definitely we can. There's someone out there currently that tries to do it as much as he can. I forget what he's called now. It's something like Mosque Busters or something, Mosque Busters. Again, he's a guy who's been going around the country and he uses planning law to stop it. The problem that you've got is that the government are allowing this, and the planning applications and the final planning application on appeal goes to the Deputy Prime Minister. And if they're crooked and they're aligning with Sharia, or and again, remember that Islam in effect is communism with a god.
How does this all affect the other Commonwealth countries like Australia?
Meaning Australia has direct access to the English Bill of Rights, and I am hopefully in discussion with a group of people in Australia. One of them, I think his name is Rod Cullen, and the other, there's another lady called Dawn something, very nice lady, in America. And hopefully I'll be doing a seminar out there, because we do the seminars on the English Constitution. So we come out and actually teach people about the Constitution. Just to give you an example, because that's a really good question, there's a number of issues that happened in Australia. I think it was in 1985 and 1986. If I remember rightly, it was the Governor General on the instructions of the Queen that prorogued the Australian Parliament because they had done things wrong or were operating against the interests of the Commonwealth and their people. So another issue happened in New Zealand, and it was called the Muldoon versus Fitzgerald case, 1976, where a member of the government there made a decree, for example, about taxes. A normal everyday person stood up and said that's unlawful, took it straight into the New Zealand High Court and said that that's against the English Bill of Rights. It's a pretended law. And the High Court did issue an order and a precedent, and they said, quite right, and they struck down the edict from the government and said, you can't do that.
So here's a question from Steph. You know, if these asylum seekers are poor people, they're broke, how are they paying to get these trips on these boats over here?
The direct answer to that is anyone who's been listening to the news, certainly on alternative media, you'll understand there's a lot of groups of people out there called NGOs, non-government organisations. A lot of that money is siphoned off from your taxes, almost like a money laundering scheme to put the money in the hands of these people. The second thing is that millions and millions and millions, actually billions, of cash was deposited in Iran on two very large military aircraft at the behest of Sadiq Hussein Obama.
Well, if you've got England back in shape, how would you stop the Fabians infiltrating Parliament again?
Quite simply, we would make them a subversive group, and we would ensure that they would never, ever get in power again. Just to make sure everyone's aware, they are almost a secret society, but not a secret society. But they are committed Marxists, even their website tells you that. And again, it's not just the Labour Party that are Fabians. Members of the Conservative Party are Fabians, which tells you, should tell you something about the Conservatives if you understand that they're committed Marxists. But the thing really to remember is the dark personality. You can test for dark personality, which means psychopath, Machiavellian, or sadist, or narcissist. You can test for that. You can do a brain scan for it, and there's certain other tests that you can do. The objective really is to keep that personality type out of any position of power over you. Meaning, I mean, if you could put it this way, if anyone's ever been married to a narcissist, if you could have done a test that told you that he or she was a narcissist, I'll guarantee you wouldn't have married them. Well, you certainly wouldn't put them in a position of power like a member of parliament, House of Lords, or a judge, or a barrister, or a police constable.
What does Graham think about the middle classes leaving the UK in high numbers?
Is to be expected. But to be fair, the middle class are the ones who have allowed this to happen, without any doubts whatsoever. And whatever country they go to, that country or them countries are in trouble, because they will. It's a bit like what's going on with New York. So New York has created this situation in various other countries, not countries, cities like Chicago, Denver, Colorado, etc. Once these people create this environment and it becomes unsafe, they then up sticks. They've made their money out of the socialist system variously, in pensions, etc. They'll then go to what they call in America a red state, and then they start deploying their same nonsense again, and it's like a cancer, and it spreads. So when these people, so-called middle class, are leaving this country, again, many middle class have degrees, and they have degrees in absolute nonsense. The most important people in this country are working people, the people that actually do the work, and secondly, the trades. I would advise anyone out there, don't get a degree in nonsense, because you're never going to get anywhere in the world, right? You'll be flipping hamburgers in McDonald's. Learn a trade, whatever the trade is, and there's new trades coming along, right? Whether it's bricklaying, plastering, or whatever, the old skills are the best way, and you'll always support your family and earn money.
Should our political system be changed so that, like America, and would it be fairer?
That's a good question. There are elements of our political system that do 100% need to change. Just for example, in America, they have what's known as primaries, which I believe is a good thing. They also have something called the Electoral College, which I believe is a good thing. If it wasn't a good thing, the Democrats wouldn't be attacking it and trying to get rid of it. There are certain elements currently in America that are bad, and I'll give you an example of that. They have methods, and they've used the methods to start to subvert the Constitution by packing out the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is a separation of power. So what the communists and the Marxists do is pack out that court with their people, and that's how you destroy the Constitution. So they've got to come back in some way of finding a way to stop that happening, and the only real way of doing that is to test the dark personality.
Well, Graham, you've answered nearly all of the questions. We've done 90 minutes. You've been very generous with your time. All of Graham's links are in the description box, and I'm going to put them in the live chat. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the viewers, my friend?
No, the only thing I will say to anyone is the Constitution is the solution. Support England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Cornwall as your nation and your ancestors. They give you that. Don't let us be the generation that extinguishes the external flame of freedom for our future generations. Stand up, but do it the right way. Forget the nonsense in the background. And if there's anyone out there that wants to support us, join our party. Or if you want us to come along to your area and do a constitutional seminar, which we talk about this, and most of them last 2 hours of actual instruction of going through it. And the longest I've had so far is 4 hours non-stop of questions and answers from the audience, which I love.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on, spending so long with us and answering all these questions. I'm going to let you go and close the show. So you have a great rest of your day, and give my regards to Mark Attwood. He's a good guy. Cheers.
No, I will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Nice one. All right. What a phenomenal guest, folks. Put a 1 in the chat if you'd like Graham to come back and do a part 3. Put a 2 in the chat if that's a nay. I know it's all going to be 1s. Thank you. So we always learn so much from Graham. Yeah, I can see all the ones piling in. Let me let you guys know what we've got coming up. We've got Kevin Annette coming back Saturday night, 8 p.m. on Who is More Evil? The Mormon Church versus the Vatican. On June 4th, we have got ex-Satanist Zachary King exposing elites and Bohemian Grove. And we've got NMK Ultra Survivor coming up next month. And we've got a lot more getting lined up as we speak. So I'm going to go bed now, folks. Huge thank you for tuning in. And a huge thank you for all of your questions. And hope to see some of you in the next